So you're getting ready for that as well. We can joke around all we want, but gang, we have a lot of really big news today in the National Football League. Just since we came on the air 59 minutes ago, two huge stories have broken. So let's tell you what's coming up in this hour. It is time to get up with TB12. Does he want his old buddy Jules with him in Tampa? Well, now it's official. Tom is going to be a Buccaneer, so we'll see who comes with him. Meanwhile, Todd Gurley, when we started an hour ago, he was a free agent. In the last hour, he has found a new team. What exactly does that mean for the NFC? And outside Tom Brady, this was the most meaningful move of the week. But what did it mean, and where do Dak and Dallas go from here? You've got all those questions. We've got all the answers as we get up with you starting right now. And again, breaking news within just the last hour. Tom Brady has posted on Instagram that it is official. He has signed his contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Again, we thought that most of the things that remain to getting that done were essentially formalities. They were. The biggest holdup seems to have been figuring out a way to have a doctor examine him in New York, and that seems to be done. I will read along with you his Instagram post. Excited, humble, and hungry. If there's one thing I've learned about football, it's that nobody cares what you did last year or the year before that. You earn the trust and respect of those around through your commitment every single day. I'm starting a new football journey and thankful for the Buccaneers for giving me an opportunity to do what I love to do. I look forward to meeting all my new teammates and coaches and proving to them that they can believe and trust in me. I've always believed that well done is better than well said, so I'm not going to say much more. I'm just going to get to work. Year one. P.S. Jack Brady with the photo credit. That's his son. Here's Jeff Darlington, our insider. Again, you've been all over this from the very beginning. It is finally official. What can you tell us about the deal?
I'm glad we're finally landing this plane, Greeny. And I can tell you right now that this is a 2-year contract that Tom Brady is signing. And by the way, something to point out here. In Tom Brady's mind, it was never going to be a 1-year situation. This was, in his mind, he's not just playing for one season. He's looking toward the future here to keep this thing going. The Bucs certainly willing to give him that opportunity. We're going to be interested to see what the numbers come in at. I can tell you early on in the early goings already, they were nearing $60 million. It was around $58 million over 2 years, 50 guaranteed. But I would anticipate by the final numbers that being maybe a little bit higher. So those are not formal numbers by any means, but that was the direction where the negotiations were headed. So we'll give you those final numbers as soon as we can get them. But for now, the only thing that really matters is that Tom Brady is a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Believe it or not, that's the truth.
And I can tell you that if the numbers do come in there, it will be the largest free agent deal ever signed. Hembo sent me the largest free agent deal ever was given to Kirk Cousins, whose average annual value is $28 million a year. So it seems certain that Tom Brady will get the biggest deal of that sort ever.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Jeff Darlington, well done. Thank you. So that's one piece of breaking news that we have. There was another that came even after that, and it is Todd Gurley. Yesterday, he was released by the Los Angeles Rams in what concludes what has been just a precipitous drop from a guy who 2 years ago was a candidate to being MVP of the league. He gets the huge contract in Los Angeles. They then release him yesterday, and now this morning, the news that he will join the Atlanta Falcons on a 1-year contract. So all signs seem to be pointing right now, Shefty, towards the NFC South. By Shefty, I of course mean Adam Schefter. What can you tell us? Todd Gurley to Atlanta.
Greeny, let's take you back the last few weeks when the Los Angeles Rams were shopping Todd Gurley and trying to find a trade partner. The two teams that expressed the most interest in him were the Atlanta Falcons and the Miami Dolphins. If we go back to free agency this week, the Miami Dolphins invested money in Jordan Howard, the former Eagles and Bears running back. That left the Atlanta Falcons as the most logical landing spot. Not only did Todd Gurley want to go back there, but they had a need. Gurley goes back to Georgia. The Falcons fill the gap that they created when they released Devontae Freeman and a salary cap casualty earlier this offseason. And so Gurley goes back to Georgia. The Falcons get their man. Keep in mind that the Rams are paying him $7.5 million this season on that 1-year deal. And whatever else the Falcons add on is just icing on the cake for Todd Gurley. Again, he wanted to get this done right away. The Dolphins filled one of the needs. The Buccaneers didn't appear to be overly interested, and it really left the Falcons as the lone logical landing spot for Todd Gurley, and they get a one-year deal done early this morning.
And I feel the need to keep saying this because when I was going through the notes this morning, it jumped out at me. He's still only 25 years old. I think people think of him as older than that. Shefty, stay with me. I'm coming back to you, but I want to bring in Orlovsky and Marcus Spears. And Swagoo, I just want to sort of throw this at you. If you look at where the Rams sit right now, and oh, by the way, where they sit is terrible. Part of the reason is they ripped up the contract of a running back when they didn't have to and gave him a ton of money, and then they made their good but maybe not great quarterback the highest paid quarterback in the league. Does that sound familiar? Does it sound anything like what a team that you know awfully well in your hometown might be on the verge of doing?
Gee, you're not gonna get me into it, man. I'm not going there with you. And obviously, we know exactly what you're talking about with Ezekiel Elliott, and obviously Dak going through his contract right now. But I feel like the Rams are in a little different situation. If you think about it, the Rams made a lot of moves for a lot of guys. They brought in Aqib Talib. They brought in Fowler, who's now gone. They got rid of Marcus Peters so this was built a lot different. Dallas is built through the draft. A lot of these guys have been playing together for a long time, and they've grown them and ushered them into this point. I think the Rams were a quick hit team. Now they have to go through the process of making a run with guys that they're drafting, bringing in, and planning on having there a long time. So I get it. I understand that Todd Gurley was a 4-year, $60 million deal, but at the time he was more than a running back. He was a guy out of the backfield. He was a catalyst. He was an MVP candidate, for God's sake. So when you think about it, at the time they gave Todd Gurley that contract, it was very warranted. So now we look down the road, Todd Gurley's gone, which usually happens. It's going to be another stain on the running back position. But with that being said, at the time the LA Rams paid Todd Gurley, it was time to pay Todd Gurley.
Can I just mention quickly?
Don't try to do that.
Listen, can I tell you what the situation the Rams are in? They had no first-round pick in 2017, 18, or 19. They don't have one this year. They don't have one next year. The Rams are in all kinds of trouble. And I would throw the same general question at you, Orlovsky. Is this sort of a warning shot to teams about the running back market and the notion of paying guys at that position?
Oh, absolutely, Greeny. I mean, we said last year that Le'Veon Bell was going to be a case study. That didn't work out. Obviously, what happened with Todd Gurley. Now, I do want to be fair to the Rams. I mean, they're a possession or two away from potentially winning the Super Bowl 2 years ago. And if they do that, we're having a little bit of a different conversation. I think Marcus's point is valid, though, that the Rams, yes, they paid Todd Gurley, but where they messed up was they started to draft poorly as well. They haven't hit on draft picks other than like Cooper Kupp in a couple years and maybe John Johnson, where the Cowboys, listen, they paid Zeke and they paid Amar and they're going to pay Dak likely, but they've hit on Jalen Smith and Van Der Esch and Awuzie and Michael Gallup. And so if you draft well, you can still pay those guys, but you better draft well. Greeny, I don't think that there will be another running back contract like that one for a long time. Like the one that Todd Gurley got, I don't see any team making that, if we want to deem it a mistake, because the empirical data that we have says it doesn't pay off.
All right, Dan, stay with me because there's one other thing I want to get in here. I was just scrolling through Twitter while we were in a break, and I saw something that Shefty tweeted just within the last hour or so, and it's very interesting to me, and we put it up on the screen here. With college prospects now banned from visiting NFL teams due to the coronavirus pandemic, and with doctors being unable to examine players on those trips, Tua Tagovailoa will remain the draft's top medical mystery, with teams being unable to get the look at him that they wanted. And so let me bring Shefty back into the conversation here. You know, we talked about it a little bit earlier. What might the Dolphins be considering doing? Do they feel they can get the quarterback they want at 5? Do they need to go up? They are not. I'd love you to expand on that thought that you posted there. They probably will not get the kind of look at Tua that they were expecting to.
Well, Greeny, talking with teams this week, this is a topic that came up a couple of different times. And we all know that teams are not going to get to examine prospects, medically speaking, the way that they would like. Yes, they got to look at them in Indianapolis, undoubtedly. But they would like a further look, a more extensive look, especially at a player like Tua Tagovailoa, when you're going to invest in him and potentially trade up for him and put a lot of money into him and use your first-round draft pick on him. You want to be as convinced as possible. You want as thorough a medical evaluation as you possibly can get. And that is part of the draft process. But the NFL this year has banned players from visiting teams' facilities. They've shut down the teams' facilities, as they should. And so when you've got a player like Tua that teams will want to get their hands on in the weeks and days leading up to the NFL draft, they can't do that this year. That leaves the teams in a little bit more of a guessing game than they ordinarily would be in at this time of the year. It's much more of a guessing game than they would like to have. And it was always going to be something of a medical gamble to trade up or to pick Tua in the first round. It's going to be an even bigger gamble at this point in time for the team that takes Tua, because they're not going to have the thorough, extensive medical information on him that they ordinarily would if he were allowed to visit.
It's been a long time since I can think of a player where this would be more relevant than it is in the case of Tua. Shefty, thank you. Do we have Laura? Is Laura? Okay, great. So no one knows the situation with Tua Tagovailoa's health better than our own Laura Rutledge, and I'm told she's with us on the phone. So, Laura, you hear sort of the concern here. Under these extraordinary circumstances, what are teams planning to do? What do we know about the way teams are approaching Tua relative to his health?
Well, look, Greeny, I think the most important date is still April 10th. If you remember, Tua's pro day was supposed to be April 9th, and then he would have gone to those combine rechecks April 10th in Indianapolis. Obviously, that is not going to happen now, but they will still do the MRI that they were planning to do on April 10th anyway. It'll just most likely happen in Birmingham, Alabama, or somewhere around those parts, maybe even in Nashville. Either way, that scan will still happen. And right now, just under these current times, they will have to take that MRI and send it in a huge file. It'll almost be like a Dropbox file, because it'll be such a large file, to all of the doctors that are associated with the teams that could be interested in Tua. And like Shefty said, this is not ideal by any stretch of the imagination, but this is really all that they can do right now to make sure that these teams at least have their hands on the MRI, which they would have gotten anyway in Indianapolis. So the other part of this as well is that Tua's camp right now is working on some sort of video that they would be able to give out to these teams, showing him throwing, showing him doing the exercises that people would want to see otherwise, and really trying to, replicate what these teams would be doing if they were able to see Tua in person. So very much uncharted territory. And to your point, Greeny, this was already complicated for Tua, and to add this into the mix, it just makes the stakes that much higher. But one other point that I wanted to give you, in talking to people affiliated with Tua and his group of advisors and people around him, they still feel very confident that the teams that were interested continue to be interested, and that those teams felt very good about his health back at the combine, as Shefty referenced.
All right, Laura, I know that you'll be talking to all the people down there, and we will check in with you as all of this continues to develop. Thank you. Let me go very quickly back to Orlovsky and Marcus. Swagoo, very simple. Knowing what you know right now, would you take Tua with the third pick in the draft?
Not what I know right now. I would have to see him on those April 9th and 10 days. And if I can't, it's hard. It's a terrible situation. Him and Cam Newton are in similar situations as far as trying to determine their health, because if they're healthy, they're really good players.
Dan, what do you think?
Greeny, yes, I would. Listen, if you're a team, you need to go full Chris Farley and David Spade mode. Hop in Tommy Boy mode and hop in some cars and go on some road trips. If I'm an owner, I'm going to my coach and my general manager and my doctors and saying, you guys are going to hop in cars, you're going to drive to wherever Tua is, and you're going to give whatever physical or whatever you need to do to figure out where he is medically. You're going to go do that. Do not waste the opportunity to draft Tua Tagovailoa over the inability because of the travel and the situation that we're in. You're getting in cars, and you're going to do it the hard way. Chris Farley, David Spade, Tommy Boy style.
All right, we will see. This shapes up to be, with the draft basically a month away, one of the most interesting stories. We're just getting this hour started. Much more to do as we get up with you. For those of you who do not believe Tom Brady can throw the ball downfield anymore, Dan Orlovsky is going to prove you're wrong. That's next. Get Up on ESPN.